Hey everybody, Derek here. I'm here to bring you another video for The Walking Dead countdown to the start of Season 6. And what I'm going to be doing in this video is analyzing whether I think the Michonne and Morgan relationship will happen in Season 6. I think this is a big part of the comics. I think that it is a big question that we have going into Season 6 with the reintroduction of Morgan into the TV show. And I think it's worth my thoughts on it. Now, I'm just going to warn you right now, if you're not caught up with the comics, if you're not caught up with the TV show, if you do not want to know any spoilers whatsoever, I just want to warn you ahead of time, there are big spoilers in this video. So if you do not want to hear them, please exit the video now, come back at a later time, because I'm basically going to tell you a lot of things coming up in the comics that may happen in the TV show, and I don't want to spoil anybody. Alrighty. So, in the comics, things go a little bit differently, than they have in the TV show with the character of Morgan. First off, Morgan actually goes back with Rick's group whenever they go to the town. And of course, the prison had already fallen at this point, so they were on their way to DC. And we saw, like, the character that Morgan played in Clear, the kind of behaviors that he was exhibiting in that episode, that is how his character was in the comics. He definitely was suffering from a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder, definitely thoughts of, craziness, hurting people. He admitted that he killed 4 people and fed, zombie Dwayne their bodies, because of course Dwayne dies, and becomes a walker, and Morgan keeps him. And, he exhibits all of these signs of, mental illness, PTSD. He's very upset. He definitely is not, okay with the fact that his wife and son are gone. And that's understandable. I can definitely understand why he would feel that way. But, in the same boat is Michonne. Michonne, who has lost her daughters in the comics, who has gone through a terrible ordeal with the governor, being tortured and potentially raped by the governor, would definitely be a very terrible ordeal to go through. We've seen that Michonne is emotionally withdrawn throughout the entire comics. I mean, we see signs of her opening up a little bit, but then things happen to her. She's not really ever ready to come out of that shell, and she just emotionally closes down. And she's definitely a very interesting character in the comics. And what is very interesting to me is that these characters in the TV show are flipped. Rather than being, emotionally withdrawn and suffering from, potential PTSD, mental illness, things along those lines from the events that have happened to them, their characters have, in a sense, risen above that, where now they are, they've in a sense moved past some of the things that have happened to them. I mean, you saw Morgan go from just, crazy to, all life is precious, and smiling and enjoying his life and seeming to have a plan. Same thing with Michonne. She has grown close to the individuals in her group. She has seen how much of an asset she is, how much they care about her, how much she cares about them, and it's those relationships that have really brought Michonne out, where she has been more hopeful. She has been more, social with people, whereas she isn't in the comics. So it's kind of ironic that, in the comics, it's their similarities of, being withdrawn, suffering from loss, that really brought them together. And they do end up engaging in a, intimate relationship, which Morgan, in a sense, regrets because he feels like he's, cheating on his wife. He feels like an adulterer, and Michonne's like, "Yo, man, come on, don't be acting like that, like, we're just doing whatever we're gonna do because we're lonely. We want to be with each other. We're searching for something." And Morgan just can't accept that. But later he comes back and apologizes to her and realizes that he is still struggling with the loss of his wife, and that's understandable. I mean, we have that in real life too. I mean, when people lose a spouse, That's a very hard thing to go through. I mean, I think that is probably the worst thing that a person can go through in their life, is losing the person that they have spent anywhere from 20, 30, 40, maybe even 50 years with that person, and they're gone. That is a hard thing to deal with. And there are some people who they can never get together with somebody else because they believe that that would be adultery, that would be dishonoring their spouse. There's other people who, they realize that, their spouse is gone, they would want them to be happy. Maybe they've talked about this, and they can go out there and find another person. And I'm not judging, everybody does whatever they do to get through these things. And again, I'm no expert, I'm no judge. Do what you got to do. I'm not here to judge, but you do realize and recognize that people take various steps and feel differently about these things, and that's Morgan, and that's Michonne as well. But but from the comics to the TV show, I believe that what may bring Michonne and Morgan together is their hope for a new world, and their similar experiences, which of course some of them are devastating. They've both lost loved ones. Michonne lost her boyfriend or husband, or I don't know if they were married or not, but she lost him. And then more importantly, both Michonne and Morgan have lost sons. And that is something that I think that they share, and that is something that I think that they will talk about. I have no doubt in my mind we're going to hear about Dwayne, and Michonne's son. I think that we are absolutely going to hear about those things. And I think that it is important for them to talk about that, because I think that they're going to realize just how much they have, gone through, and how much they've overcome, because Michonne is so much more of a hopeful character in the TV show than she is in the comics. I mean, and it's so amazing, to see how far she has come in the television show. To being this hopeful person, telling Rick, like, yo, we need this community. Okay, we can't be doing this forever. We can't be out here going home to home, killing walkers, dealing with bandits, losing pieces of our souls, giving up. We can't do this. Whereas Michonne in the comics, she's more of the person like, this is the world, this is the way it is, and I'm just going to take this sword, go out there and chop a zombie's head off, whatever. It's such a big changeover. And I think that it is that hopeful disposition that Morgan seems to be displaying, and what Michonne has displayed, that I think will bring them together. I think that they are going to agree on a lot of things. I think, a lot of Morgan's ideas are things that Michonne is going to agree with, because both of them seem to be pushing towards this idea of, we need to get this world back to the way that it was, or as close as we can as possible. And, we can't be killing people. We can't be doing this and that. And I think that they're both going to have their own opinions on that. Now, I think Michonne can definitely understand, why Rick did what he did. And I think that, we know that Michonne will always have Rick's back. But again, I think that just ideologically, Morgan and Michonne seem to be moving towards this similar interest. And I think that that is going to bring them together. And I think that we will see the two of them at least form some kind of a bond. Whether it's going to become an intimate relationship or not, that's going to depend on a lot of factors. And again, I just want to stress, this is the big spoiler that I've been warning. So just in case you've been watching and you don't want to know, please stop the video at this point, because I'm moving into a big spoiler territory here. What that spoiler is that in the comics, Morgan does die in volume 14. He ends up, getting bitten by a walker when the walkers invade Alexandria. Michonne cuts his arm off, but either Morgan dies from the blood loss or the infection spread too quick. I don't know which one it was, but I'm more assuming that it was blood loss, because it seemed like the arm came off almost as fast as Dale's leg did. But again, that's hard to say. But Morgan ends up dying, and Michonne has to put him down. And when Michonne put Morgan down, it was definitely hard for her to do. And I think that when it comes to that moment, that's something that Michonne has experienced in the comics over and over and over again, is that anytime she comes out of her shell and forms this bond with somebody, they die. Tyrese, Morgan, and then, again, another spoiler from further on in the comics, Ezekiel. You know, anytime that she has formed a relationship with somebody, they die. And it's hurt her. Absolutely has hurt her. Her whole life has been loss. Losing her daughters, losing the man that she loved, losing all of her, post-apocalyptic, lovers, intimate relationships. That is something that has to be hard for Michonne to deal with. And I think that coming into the TV show, you know, I, I'm on the fence as to whether I want to see Michonne go back to that person that she was in season 3, or whether I want to see her progress further as a character. It's so hard. Because a lot of things is that, one, you don't know exactly how long The Walking Dead is going to last. I would like to see it go on for years and years and years and years. That's me. They may have another idea. And, of course, if they do, then that's going to influence the direction that they take. So, part of me thinks that, if this relationship does happen, then I think that it would be good for Michonne, because I think that it would show her a sign that, the world is moving on. And I think that it would also confront her with this challenge, because even though she's moving forward, I think that forming an intimate relationship would be something that would still be a test for her, that it would still be something that she would worry about. Worry about losing Morgan, remembering her son, things along those lines. And does she really want to take that next step, get close to somebody, and potentially lose them? And I think that if she does, I think that even still moving forward, I think that if they do get together, I think the two of them will share that concern. And that may, result in some of the fights or some of the interactions that we see them have in the comics. The other thing is, we don't know how long Morgan is going to, live in the TV show. If they decide to keep his character going, I think that would be great. But, if your character dies in the comics, it really does make it more likely that you're going to die in the TV show. I mean, really, the only character right now that is dead in the comics, but still alive in the TV show right now is Carol. At this point in the story, of course. And I think it's amazing that they've been able to continue to keep her going. Well, I guess, of course, Judith too, but that's something different entirely. But that's it. Other than that, any other character that died is dead. And I think that does play a big factor into whether your character is going to stick around or not. And the fact that Morgan does die in the comics at this time, and also just knowing that Lenny James is the kind of actor who really is involved with a lot of different projects. Is he going to stick around for the whole season or for several seasons? I don't know. That's something that they're going to have to figure out. But I think that if Michonne would lose Morgan, then I think that it would, make more sense for storyline wise if they're going to have Michonne, go back into that dark place to, become more emotionally withdrawn. I think that, killing Morgan off would accomplish that if that's something that they want to do. Now, the other thing that they could do, of course, which I thought about, was if Morgan dies and Michonne never, actually moves forward and does something about that, then I think that it might be something that she would regret. Like I had this opportunity to, tell somebody how much I really cared about them and I never did it. And maybe later on down the road, if Ezekiel is introduced and, Michonne meets up with him, that maybe she won't make the same mistake that she did with Morgan and not tell him how much, he meant to her, or, made a move. Maybe she doesn't make a move, and maybe she should have. So a lot of these things are really a lot of different factors that could, push the story forward. And I think that it really is going to depend on the direction that they want to take Michonne in the story. Because again, she is different than her comic book character. And I don't know if it is possible to take her all the way back to season 3, but I think you can come pretty close. After what happened at the prison, and after, having to see Herschel die and all that, we saw that Michonne can return to that dark place inside of herself. And I think that putting herself out there and losing Morgan, I think that would put her pretty close back into that former spot that she was in. So I will be very interested to see if they move forward with this, but I think they should. And I think that it would be for very good storyline purposes. I think that it would be amazing to see that relationship, and then, of course, whatever they decide to do with it. I think that it should be for moving the story forward. And again, if they want to have Michonne become that character that she is in the comics, more like that, I think that killing off Morgan would be a start to do that. I don't want to ever see her necessarily go back all that way, but I think if you want to get really darn close, I think that, killing Morgan off would do that. But we'll see what happens. One thing I do want, though, I want them to do it. I want to see Morgan and Michonne get together because their ideologies are very close together now. They both lost sons. They both have a lot in common. And I would like to see that come together, and I would like to see them interact. I hope they do it. Guess we'll wait and see on October 11th. So with that, I'm going to bring this video to a close. I want to thank all of you for watching. If you guys have any questions or comments, don't be afraid to leave them. Feel free to subscribe. I do have more videos coming. If you guys have any suggestions for future videos that you would like to see, please do not be afraid to suggest them. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and thank you very much for watching.